This is one of the oldest and most well-preserved anatomical theatres in Europe. It was built in 1637 inside the Palazzo dell'Archiginnasio, the main seat of the University of Bologna then, and this is where, for over a century, students and citizens gathered to watch human bodies being cut open. Now, Bologna has a long history with dissection. In 1315, a professor called Mondino degli Uzzi performed the first officially sanctioned human dissection here, more than 300 years before this theatre was even built. By the time it was, anatomy had become one of the university's great public events, and you can tell from the room itself. The architect Antonio Levanti designed it as an amphitheater, with tiered wooden benches rising steeply around a central marble table. It sits around 250 people. The professor lectured from an elevated chair, flanked by two life-sized flayed wooden figures carved by Ercole Lelli. Above the chair, you can see a canopy topped with a female allegory of anatomy, receiving a femur from a cherub. Around the walls, you can see 12 carved physicians, including Hippocrates, Galen, Mondino himself, and my favorite, Gaspare Tagliacozzi, holding a nose because he pioneered reconstructive rhinoplasty in the 16th century. The ceiling is also extraordinary. A carved Apollo sits at the center, surrounded by 14 constellations because, in early modern medicine, physicians took astrology very seriously. Now, dissections usually happened in winter, when the cold slowed decomposition, and they were often timed to coincide with carnival. The bodies came from executed criminals, ideally strangers to the city, so that no one in the audience might accidentally recognize them. The whole thing was a civic ritual. The cardinal legate and city officials sat in seats of honor. University doctors were ranked by seniority, and ordinary citizens filled the rest. It's said that some audience members even arrived in carnival masks, and that there was even music, with a flute player or a violinist playing during the cutting. Now, there is some debate among historians as to just how festive the vibe actually was. But one thing that always surprises people is the role of the church in this, and that's because there's a persistent myth that the church opposed dissection. But here the opposite is true. The Archiginnasio was commissioned by a pope. Next door, masses were being held in the chapel for the souls of the people being dissected. Much later, in January 1944, an Allied air raid almost completely destroyed this room. What you can see today is a painstaking reconstruction, using the sculptures found in the rubble. It's well worth a visit.